to upload it later. Yes, I think we are live now. Thank everyone for tuning in. Thank everyone I have my monitor up here. I'm going live on YouTube. To my YouTube family, I thank you all so much for your support. I sincerely appreciate it. And I have not been on live on YouTube in a long time. So I thank all of you for allowing me the opportunity to be live on YouTube. Thank the people of YouTube who operate the system. Again, if it's not for them, then we won't be able to do anything. As well as on Facebook, I thank everyone for tuning in on Facebook. And we're trying to build a more supportive following on Facebook. All of the social media stuff really makes a big difference. And I encourage people to learn how to pray about it. Pray that you learn how to listen to commentary that doesn't so much stir you up and make you want to jump and shout, but gives you proper insight to the things that are going on. To the Facebook family, what's up? What's up, Doug? What's going on, man? Glad you tuned in. To the Facebook family. I know you can't stay on long and just listen to somebody talk, but in the beginning was the Word. The Word was God. The Word was with God, and the Word is very important because we are going too far off the path from the Word, and we're just making up things as we go along. So I wanted to talk today about the blind leading the blind. And I hope that you would share this information. Shouts out to Dale Castro Powell. He may be coming on with me simultaneously on another broadcast. I don't know, because he was supposed to be on at 5:30. So I don't know. But he's coming on also with something very powerful, talking about people and their agenda. So I encourage you to support Dale Castro, which you all have been supporting him, which is good. And also support the 19 Report. We're all in cahoots with each other. We're all doing this together. So thank everybody for tuning in. I want to get into this subject of the blind leading the blind. And it doesn't have to come from a perspective of religion, but more so from the perspective of the reality of what's happening right now in our lives, why it's happening, why we're in this position that we're in. So I want to go directly into it. First of all, if you have your Bibles with you, and again, the reason that I come from biblical text is because people are more acquainted with the Bible than with the Quran or the Hebrew Bible or other Bibles. But I read about 5 different Bibles because most of the Bibles, hey, how are you, Miss Anetta, Miss Judah? Anat of Judah. I'm praying that I'm pronouncing that correctly. Most books talk about God in the same way, but in different words. And again, these books were translated out of their original tongue. So when a person translates something, it's not verbatim what you said, but close enough to what you said so that people will understand, comprehend what's being said. So I want to go into Matthew 15 and 14 of the King James Version of the Bible. We're going to start there because that is the title of this commentary. And I hope that you all will stay with me and share this information, because this is not for vainglory. This is not for salutes and salutations and kudos, but it is by God's permission and attempt to do what I'm told to do gladly, and pray that the message hits home with some people because it is necessary. Matthew 15 and 14. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall in the ditch. Now, the Bible is full of what are called allegories and parables. Some people call them fairy tales. You can call them what you want, but they are is another word for it too. Historical stories that tell gives a message that can teach you a lesson about life. So a parable is a simple story used to illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson as told by Jesus in the gospel. It is usually a short, fictitious story that illustrates a moral attitude or religious principle. Stick with me on this, please. I don't look at my board too much. I don't like getting caught up in who's watching. I just like to tap into that God spirit and just go with the flow. And I'll answer questions later on if any come up. We're talking about blind leading the blind, and I want you to stay with me for a little while if you can. This will only take about 30 minutes, God willing, 40 at the max, God willing. We're talking about blind leading the blind. And we're in Matthew 15 and 14 of the King James Version of the Bible. All of my notes are written on my teleprompter in front of me. We talked about what a parable is. We just read 14, which said, let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall in the ditch. Then answered Peter and said unto him, declare unto us this parable. Now, I want to stop there for a minute, because most of the time, especially with our young people today, we act as if though we know everything. So we aren't equipped mentally to ask questions, because we want to act as if though we are so intelligent that we don't need clarification on anything that we hear. And most of the time we walk off without clarity of what we're supposed to do, and we end up falling in the ditch. So that is a part of the blind leading the blind. It is imperative that we learn not only to ask questions, but ask the proper questions in order to get the proper answer. That is the magic of the internet. If you ask the right question, you will get the right answer. So then answered Peter and said unto him, declare unto us this parable. And Jesus said, are ye also yet without understanding? Do not ye yet understand that whatsoever entereth in at the mouth goeth into the belly, and is cast out into the drop? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man or woman. I added that woman part in. For out of the heart proceeds evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thieves or theft, false witnesses, and blasphemies. All of these come from the heart of the individual. These are the things which defile a man, says Jesus, but to eat with unwashed hands defiles not a man. Now, how do the blind lead the blind? The blind leads the blind by defiling the word of God with their own words and misleading people who came for guidance. I'm going to say that again. The blind leads the blind by defiling the words of God with their own words, their own opinions, their own views, their own selfish thoughts, and misleading people who came for proper guidance, who are instead indoctrinated with personal opinion and rhetoric that comes from the heart of an individual who believes themselves to be the voice of God. They believe that, usually because of some situation that came about and they misunderstood the purpose of them going through that situation. A lot of us deal with near-death situations. A lot of us deal with loss in money, or we gain money, or we lose a loved one, or we gain another family member. Something in life that happens to us that all of a sudden we say we're supposed to be a minister of God, a preacher of God's word, but we did not sit still long enough to understand or comprehend what God had intended for us going through that trial. So everything we teach from that perspective, we're teaching like everything that deals with what we've been through and nothing on the other side of that. So if you become wealthy, you deal with God's blessings from the, what do they call it, the prosperity perspective. But we forget about the people who are going through troubles in their life. There are people still living in homes without proper running water. Right there in Denmark, South Carolina, they're drinking poison, lead-filled poison water. They were cleaning the water with pool cleaner. Bernie Sanders just went through and donated some water, but the system is still not clean, because even in drinking water, depending upon how long the water has been in the container, it's poison as well. So depending upon the perspective of how we were given our blessing, that's how we teach. That's not balanced. That's one-sided. The blind leading the blind. So the scripture states that for out of the heart proceeds evil thoughts, murders, adulterers, fornication, thieves, and false witnesses, blasphemies or blasphemers. This is not talking about someone who goes out and murders someone, like stabbing or killing. This is talking about someone who murders the soul of another individual because you're not feeding them the food that is necessary for their soul to grow. You're feeding them in accordance to what you perceive you're supposed to say, as opposed to tapping into the proper comprehension of God's message, God's lessons, God's words, by whatever name you call it. Why do we do that? Because we are blind to the knowledge of how God works. Blasphemy. Blasphemy is the act of insulting or showing contempt or lack of reverence for God. Accused of blasphemy means that you're not showing respect to God. The act of claiming the attributes of a deity. Does that sound familiar? Most of us today are claiming positions in God's kingdom. We're not even, first of all, in God's kingdom, but we're claiming positions. I'm this, I'm that. And if you follow me, you'll get this, this, and this. I'm going to tell you something. This is a secret of the ages. Satan controls this world, and Satan decides who moves and how they move. I don't care what aspect of life you're in, you are being watched. This is not for the sake of paranoia. This is just the reality of where we are. And when you're blind to the knowledge of where you are, you don't know how to move properly at the right time for the right reasons. So you find that most people who think alike hang together, not because they're thinking properly, because they don't want to be judged or discerned against because of how they think. Most of us think in terms of everything being okay. There is no wrong in the world today. Everything is right. And that is not balance. Now, when we speak of God as this nice guy who sees no wrong, we are blaspheming against God. When we speak of God as one that does not show wrath or punishment or punishing the wicked, we are usurping authority over that one who always shows mercy, but vengeance as well. We take the position of God. You'll hear people, ministers, pastors, elders in the church talking about God and talking to God as if though God owes us something. I told God, if he don't fix this for me and this and that. That is someone who is blaspheming against God, but we see them as holy. Let me tell you something. This world can hold you up financially. Once you're in a system of AME or First Baptist, Second Baptist, you're under a system. That system holds you up. So where most people are looking at you as if though you're blessed all the time, you're under a system that is holding you up, keeping you looking good before the people. That does not mean you have God's sight. We desire to make God apathetic. And when you make God apathetic, you make him spiritless, without emotions and non-caring. We want people to think that their salvation comes through us and us alone. So we talk about God as if though we go in this secret room and have conversations with God and then come back and tell the people, thus saith the Lord, as if though we are the Moses of the time. This is a lie. You do not see God's face. You're blind to the ways of God, you and I. I'm going to prove that in a minute. We make ourselves gods besides God. Therefore, we are the blind leading the blind. I'm getting to a point. Always got to build up to it. And when we are piling up in the ditch of ignorance, that's where we are. We are piling up in the ditches of ignorance because it's easier to forgive. It's easier to forget. It's easier to let go than to face the reality of where we are right now and what we're going through. So your pastors in most cases are telling you leave the past in the past. That's dangerous. God will throw all of your indiscretions into the lake of forgetfulness in his time. But we take on the power of God. That's blasphemy. And we say forget about something, then we've offended people in our lifetime. We've done things wrong, and these people are still hurting over what we did, and we want to forget about what we did and leave them over there suffering and act as if though we are so innocent we never did any wrong. That is blindness, because you're losing a part of your sight. Now let's go into Deuteronomy 4:2 and 9, not 2 through 9, but 2 and 9. 2 reads as follows, Deuteronomies. And I encourage you to look this information up for yourself. I also encourage you to go back and listen to what is being said, because it's time for everyone to understand Bible, Quran, Hebrew Bible, whatever you read. It's time to comprehend it well enough to be able to think for yourselves so that we can do away with religion. Religion is a law that is necessary to keep people in line. And without law, the people go savage. So religion is necessary. Laws set forth that you and I will not commit crimes. Same laws of the land that are one-sided, but set forth that we don't commit too many crimes. Because the heart of the people are poisoned with desire. Desire fuels the will. Deuteronomy 4, 2 and 9, King James Version of the Bible. Ye shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall ye diminish aught from. I just said that we don't want to talk about God's wrath. We just want to talk about love, love, love. But the book says, ye shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall ye diminish aught from it, that ye may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you. That is Deuteronomy 2. Now we're going to Deuteronomy 9. Only take heed to thyself, and keep thy soul diligent, lest thou forget the things which thine eyes have seen, and lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life, but teach them to thy sons and thy sons' sons. So the dangers of forgetting are that we have no blueprint to teach the children. And that's what happened to the children after entering the promised land in the Bible. They had no blueprint to remember what Moses did for them. So they are like the millennials of today who talk, we don't need no leaders, we don't need nobody, we got it under control. You don't have it under control, and you're going to find out soon enough. You, the young, are pitted against the old when we're supposed to be together. That is the hand gesture of prayer, togetherness, unity, left and right hand connected, that the energies of the body will flow through your body and through your words and connect to each other. That is the unification of old and young, of white and black, of all colors. God made us into different families, colors, tribes, so that we would know one another. This is in the Quran. And not hate one another. I'm going to say it again. The Holy Quran teaches that God intentionally allowed different tribes and families so that we would get to understand each part of ourself. Because when you look at every other color that comes from us, dark, blue, black, that is a part of us that is in everything. So when you learn that part of yourself, you're learning more about the greatness of God. But when you skip that and you throw out parts of it and you forget and you don't see ahead, you don't see behind, you don't see through your peripheral view, you become lost in your narrow-minded view. And a narrow-minded person will never see anyone else's view of a thing. Lord have mercy. Sight. What is sight? Now we're getting into how we can better comprehend sight and how to use it, because this has to be taught today, right now, because it'll take 4 or 5 years before you look back at it and say, oh, yeah. Keith said, Brother Johnny Jamil said that. Sight, the power or faculty of seeing, perception of objects by use of the eyes. That's sight. Vision, an act, fact, or instance of seeing. That's sight. To look carefully in a certain direction. When you don't look behind you and there's someone behind you with a knife, they could kill you. When you don't look in front of you and there's another car coming after you, you could hit it head on, it could kill you. Same thing, you could be sideswiped with a right punch, sideswiped with a left punch, because you're not looking in the directions. You're not standing on the square. Now let's go into sight. And this is not talking about the physical sight. This is talking about the spiritual fight, because we wrestle not against man. We're wrestling against spirit and principalities in heavenly places. And I'm paraphrasing that. But our fight is bigger than we're giving it credit. When you go against the devil, when you challenge Satan, you're going to lose. You can say the devil is a liar all you want, but you don't understand the meticulous nature of Satan. You don't understand or comprehend how he works, because our views spiritually, we're blind. We act most on emotion. So let's go into the first form of sight, spiritual sight, foresight. Foresight is something you have to have. You have to possess foresight. If you don't, then you're blind when you're looking forward. And most of us have been put to sleep. We're in alpha mode. We think everything is going to be all right because we say it's going to be all right. So we don't have foresight. What is foresight? Foresight is care or provision for the future. Providence care, prudence, the act or power of foreseeing, prevision, prescience, an act of looking forward. That is foresight. If you do not exercise your God-given right to see the future, then you are blind. Hindsight. Hindsight is the perception of nature of an event after it has happened. After an event has happened, we must examine it to see what the purpose of it was. Do you know, if a plane crashed off in the Atlantic, the aeronautic division, investigation division tries to get that plane. They take that plane, put it in a hangar, and put the whole plane back together and say, that's where it exploded, in that area right there. That is hindsight, investigating past events so that we don't make the same mistake again. If you decide in your mind, or because someone tells you to, forget the past before God says to forget it, before the universal order of things balances out and says, okay, there are things in my life that I've done that I have forgotten because I studied it, and you have too. I've apologized and attempted to make amends. I'm completed with that, but it will come back to me when I need it to use it as a teaching tool. Hindsight, perception of the nature of an event after it has happened. How can we perfect hindsight when we are constantly encouraged to forget, to forgive before the lesson is taught? When Dylan Roof killed the 9 in Charleston, the very first thing the people came on, we forgive you. And Dylan Roof said clearly, I didn't ask for your forgiveness. I don't want your forgiveness. I did what I had to do. So in the Charleston Church, Emmanuel Baptist Church, Dr. King spoke there. I told you about, did a commentary on Gullah Jack and Denmark Vesey, who started a revolution in that same church to kill all the white folks and go back to Barbados or Haiti or Africa because they wanted to be free. Now, Denmark Vesey was a free black man. He didn't have to fight, but he chose to because he had sight. And he understood that what was being done was not right. Hindsight. How can you have it if you're taught to forgive everything before the lesson is taught? This is why we keep going through the same things over and over, because we never learn a lesson. This is why you and my children are constantly going to prison, constantly out of prison, constantly going back to jail, constantly in bad relationships, constantly losing jobs, getting the job, losing the job, constantly in conflict within self, because we forget the moment it's over with. Our children are forgetting their past. And God said that if you forget me, I will cause your children to forget as well. and I will forget your children. So the children are becoming disrespectful, dishonorable. They are of no use to the future. Foresight. Because after them will be a generation worse than them. I told you when I was younger, we used to carry sawed-off shotguns. We would steal them and cut them ourselves and cut the barrel off and make these guns. And we would go to clubs whenever we got into trouble or beef with anybody. We had no intentions of killing them, but we would let the guns off in the air. Boom! Everybody would go, leave, because, oh, they shooting. But by the time our era was done, as Dale Castro said, they were lowering the guns, aiming at you to kill you. This generation is shooting and shooting and shooting because each generation stops where the next generation starts. And without hindsight and foresight, we are blind to the knowledge of God, and we're going to lose another generation. Does that make sense? So we talked about foresight and hindsight. Now, insight. Insight is an instance of apprehending the true nature of a thing, especially through intuitive understanding, penetrating mental visions or discernment, faculty of seeing into inner character or underlying truth. But you say, because you miscomprehend biblical text, and because your leaders will not explain to you discernment, you say, don't judge. But if I cannot use insight to properly discern a situation, how am I going to get out of a difficult situation? How am I going to stay out of trouble? So our children run directly into trouble because they don't use insight. Does that make sense? Insight, hindsight, foresight. Now let's go into 1 Thessalonians 5, 21 through 22 to put some clarity on what's being said. We're almost done, I promise. 1 Thessalonians 5:21 through 22. It says, but examine everything carefully. Insight. Hold fast to that which is good. Abstain from every form of evil. Thessalonians 21 and 22. But examine everything carefully. That is insight. It didn't say judge it. It said discern against it. But examine everything. I examine everything. I study I call people, yo, man, what you think about so-and-so? I get their views. I don't take their opinion on it. I balance everything out, and then I weigh it in accordance to the laws of discernment and go according to that. That's why I can see so much phony, not only in people, but in myself. I'm phony too. And when I see those parts of myself, I don't like it. I don't like what God doesn't like. But examine everything carefully. 1 Thessalonians 5, 21 through 22. Hold fast to that which is good, abstain to that from which is evil. Now let's go into Hosea 14 and 9. Listen very carefully because it uses the word. Who is wise, it asks. Let them realize these things. Realize things. Who is discerning? Let them understand. The ways of the Lord are right. The righteous walk in them, but the rebellious stumble in them. When you are blind, you stumble. Without discernment, you will stumble. Without insight, hindsight, foresight, spiritually, you and I will fall in a ditch, and we are all in ditches. I don't care what the label you put on your church. You can go to any church on any Sunday, and they're all saying the exact same thing, just in a different way. You have to make your message conducive to the people who come to hear it. Everybody don't shout. Everybody don't like singing. Some people like myself, I got to get something of value that I can use from the message. And if I can't, I'm not coming. Oversight. That's the fourth one. Oversight. Spiritual oversight. Oversight is an omission or error due to carelessness, unintentional failure to notice or consider, lack of proper attention. This is what we suffer from. That's why I said you got to know the devil and you got to know God. Because when you understand, and I understand that we suffer from oversight, that we miss things. And sometimes you have to go back and look at it again over and over again to examine it. You're not judging a thing. I'm just trying to get clarity. Here's the proof. 1 Peter 5:2 of the King James Version of the Bible, but I'm reading this out of the World English Bible. There are about 81 Bibles, and I usually go through about 10 of them when I'm looking for something to make sure they're saying things the same way. Listen to what it says in 1 Peter 5:2, and look it up for yourself. It says, shepherd the flock of God which is among you. Shepherd them. In order to shepherd them, you're keeping them out of harm's way. You're leading them to the water so they can drink. You're getting them the proper foods. You're doing everything that is necessary to keep them safe. Shepherd the flock of God which is among you, exercising the oversight, not understanding compulsion, but voluntarily, not for dishonor gain, but willingly. I am not asking you the same question over and over to catch you in a lie. I am not comprehending what you're saying, so I ask again. Tell me that again. Say that again. And so what you're saying is, but we take it as someone saying you're lying. No, I'm exercising oversight according to biblical scripture. Now we got oversight, insight, hindsight, and foresight. When you talk about standing on the square, when you talk about staying on your deen, when you talk about the third eye being opened, and you frighten people with this Illuminati talk, the third eye being open means that I have the tools necessary to make proper judgment. Now, my judgment may be the judgment based on the right thing or the judgment based on the wrong thing, but I'm very clear in what I judge. I'm so clear. That is why Satan's world is so successful. Everything that is done in Satan's world is methodical and mechanical. That is why slavery went on for 450 years. Now mental slavery, spiritual slavery, because this thing is planned out to the letter. They don't just believe things. They manifest it through sight. You and I just believe things and just start talking and don't examine anything. So we are blindly walking in belief. I can believe that an airplane is in my front yard. I can believe that my wife is going to buy me a new car. I can believe that I'm going to live to 150. No proof of that. That is not faith. That's belief. It is different. Now, nearsight, able to see near things more clearly than distant ones. This is the trouble. This is the one that causes an issue. Now, in 2 Peter 9, it says, but he that lacketh these things is blind and cannot see afar off. When you cannot see afar off, I'm nearsighted. That's why I wear glasses. No, I'm farsighted. I can see. Which one am I? Lord have mercy. I can see things close up, but I can't see things far away. So my computer is probably about, I don't know, a foot in front of me or less. I can't see without these glasses. It's blurry to me. It's like hazy. But he that lacketh, in order to compensate for my blindness, I have to wear something that helps me to see. What is it that helps us to see? Knowledge helps us to see. Wisdom helps us to see. Comprehension helps us to see. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding. That is the pyramid. That is the knowledge. That is the third eye. Because you got a third eye. I legally blind in my left eye. Then we're going to move on. I used to get, and I still get, very severe headaches because my right eye is trying to compensate for everything in my left. And I talked to my doctor about it, and he said, well, that is the nerve in your forehead pulling on your eye. Sometimes the left eye all of my sight goes here, and it's very blurry, so I can't drive at night. And I got to blink, blink, blink in order to see properly again. I saw someone that I knew the other day. They were talking to me, and I could not identify who it was. And I was not very far from them. I had to walk up close to them. It was like, oh, okay. But these helped me to see better. Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding will help you to do the same. Now, nearsighted, able to see near things more clearly than distant ones. In 2 Peter 9, it says, but he that lacketh these things is blind and cannot see afar off, and have forgotten that he was purged from his sins. So nearsighted people are very dangerous, because we are in a nearsighted world where the old women who done opened their legs up and done had so much sex to their womb is tired. Now they want to go to church, and now they want to act as if though they did no wrong. Parents who wore their children out, tore their behinds up, now they want to act like they know. You don't hit that child. Well, you hit me. No, I didn't. Nearsighted. We forget all that we did to get the children in the position. I don't know what's wrong with these children today. I'll tell you what's wrong. You, mama and grandmama and granddaddy, y'all were sleeping around with cousin, nephew, and friends. Y'all were sleeping around with married men. Y'all were drinking liquor and smoking marijuana and doing anything else that would get you high, but you did it in private, so you thought that it wouldn't be known. But everything in the dark comes to the light, and it's being manifested through our children. But because of our nearsightedness, we will not go to God and say we made a mistake. Instead, I don't know what's wrong with this generation. You are wrong with this generation. I am wrong with this generation. And that is why I work so diligently to prove to God that I want to change the next generation. I'm not concerned about what y'all think about Jamil. Think what you want to think. But I'm fighting for my life and for the life of the next generation. You do what you want to do. Party to death. Do that. But you're nearsighted. 2 Peter 1, 3-9 of the King James Version of the Bible. We're almost done. According as his divine power hath given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness, through the knowledge of him that hath called us to glory and virtue. I want you to see the line of events that have to take place in order for us to stay in God's grace, whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature. We want to be divine, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. Lust is the ticket. We lust for things that we don't even need. 2-3 people living in a 4-story house with a basement, just out of lust. Just out of lust. Things that we don't need, just to show you that, yes, I can get that. I'm somebody. 5, and besides this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue. Look at all the things you have to add. Add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness charity. For if these things be in you and abide, he shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. If you carry these things, you will have the blessing of spiritual sight. 9, but he that lacketh these things is blind, and cannot see afar off, and hath forgotten that he was purged from his old sins. Nearsightedness. But he that lacketh these things that I just mentioned is blind and cannot see afar off. Foresight, and hath forgotten hindsight, and he was purged from his old sins. Why these children doing these things? Because you did it, mama. You've been hoeing for a long time, and you know it, daddy. You've been hoeing for a long time, and you know it. You paid for sex. You've done things and you know it. And you think that you're going to escape God's judgment by saying, don't judge, don't judge. Judgment is coming. It is here. It is here. You can't stop it. My God, man. We got to break this cycle of this ignorance, this blindness that we carry with the, I'm saved and I know the Bible and I can tell you I'm a Muslim and I know everything and God, Allahu Akbar. Come on, man. Come on. Come down to your people and teach them. Teach them the knowledge of God so that they will not be able to say, I didn't comprehend what you were saying. 1 John 1-8 of the Bible. Listen to this. And this is for all of you holy rollers. You know, that just want to just walk around on flowers all day. God is love. God. You know that, you know? 1 John 1-8 says, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. I'm going to say it again. 1 John 1-8. If we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. See, we've been convinced that because we don't miss no Sunday, and we walk around with skirts on, and we carry the Bible everywhere we go, that we have the power of discernment to read a You have such a bad spirit. You got a bad spirit too, because you are judging me. You're not using discernment. You're just saying something that comes out of your mouth because you got a feeling. But 1 John 1-8 says, if you say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves. Look at you, young lady. You 40, 50 years old. You ain't gonna never get married because your mouth won't allow you to. You're so holy, you don't take care of yourself. You can't offer a man nothing but to sit up under him with all these fake amenities on. Look at you, man. Look at yourself and what you have become. How you carry yourself, your mindset. You're no good to nobody. All you can do is just take up space with life, but the generation after you with your knowledge. Look at us. My father left me with genetics of alcoholism. My mother did too. But he also left me with insight to know I had a choice. And I chose not to drink. But most of us are so weak that we fall right into the line. And this is how we justify it. I'm just like my daddy. I get drunk like my daddy. I chase women like my daddy. What justification is that? Blind. No foresight, no hindsight, no insight, just nearsighted. Now let's go to Ephesians. We're almost done, I promise. Ephesians 2 of the King James Version of the Bible. Listen. For by grace are ye saved through faith. By grace are we saved through faith. And that not of yourself, not of myself. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. So many of us think because we give the most money, we're constantly in the building, that this is why I'm saved, because I've done so much for the Lord. But the book says, for by grace are ye saved through faith. And faith requires sight. So if we are blind and leading blind, how can we have faith? You just got belief. And you're nearsighted in what you think you know. And everything that goes on in your life, you justify it with your mouth, but it's not what God said was to be. Lord have mercy. God told me I'm supposed to buy this land. And God blessed me. I bought one piece and I got 3 pieces left. But the land is not usable. So you don't say, maybe I misunderstood God. You just say, well, God doesn't make mistakes. Justifying everything, never learning the lesson. Knowing God requires patience. Ephesians 2, for by grace are ye saved through faith. Y'all think that you're saved through a good job and money. I like money and I respect the dollar and I respect its capabilities and I want more of those dollars. If the currency of America was chickens, I want more chickens. If the currency was eggs, I want more eggs because I know now better what to do with it. Not just to buy things so you can say, look at Jamil, look at his home, look at his cars. No, I want to help people and balance that. That's why I asked for donations. We help people. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourself. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. You don't give an ignorant man money, he's going to blow it. You teach the man knowledge and then give him the money and see how well he acts with the money. God doesn't just give you everything. You're going to blow it because you have no sight. You're blind. So he tests you with a little bit, then a little bit more, then a little bit more to see. Then he takes it back, then gives it back double, triple, quadruple. 2 Corinthians 5:7, we're almost done for real. We really are. New King James Version of the Bible says, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Walking through faith is required because we have been led into a system that jumps the gun and does everything in haste. And you know how many people, how many ministers, how many of these holy people in mosque and church and synagogue have prejudged you and didn't come to you and ask you he got AIDS. Look at how he looked. The man's got lupus and you didn't put AIDS on. And so what if he has AIDS? That is a disease that you catch when something goes wrong. Pray for instead of talking about. Ask questions with and to. I posted up that we talk so much about God that we don't take the time to talk to him. So everybody knows God in absentia. Just talking and God said and God. When you ever talk to God? And when you ever been patient enough to wait on the answer? Faith is required because we jump the gun and we do everything in haste. The Quran says that man was born in haste. Faith slows down our instant reaction because we have to wait on God for the proper outcome. Sight has been made corrupt and illusions have taken the place of reality. This is by Satan's design, but God allowed it. We are in a world of illusions. Created by Satan, he is masterful. And if you ever crack the code of getting out of this world, it is terrifying and you end up alone. I talked to some guys. I told them the other day, I said, man, we grew up together. Every time I see y'all on the internet, y'all got your hands in the air having a party. Y'all don't ever invite me. I'm from where y'all are from. Well, we just assume we party all night. I said, that ain't got nothing to do with it. I can go home when I want to go home. Well, we got drinking and stuff there. I don't have to drink. I don't have to be around that part. I just want to be in the company of people that I grew up with, right? But people will judge a situation and determine that you are not qualified to be with them. And at the same time, after you've ostracized me and I don't have no place to go, you'll say, look at that nigga Keith. That nigga think he better than everybody else. So that is this world of illusions. And once you crack the code of that, there are just certain things you don't want to do anymore. Does that make any sense? Let's go to 2 Thessalonians 2:1. Almost done. I promise you, the bar is almost at the bottom. I see it. I see the end. I see the white page. 2 Thessalonians 2:1 of the King James Bible. It says, and for this cause, God shall send them strong delusions that they should believe a lie. Read Thessalonians and see why God allowed these illusions. Read the Bible and read where it says that the people said to the pastors and preachers and imams, tell us things we want to hear. Don't tell us no truth. We don't want to hear that anymore. Now, we all suffer from narrow minds, having or showing a prejudiced mind. As persons or opinions, we're narrow-minded, based not receptive to new ideas. We're biased. We're not acceptable to new ideas. Having a closed mind, some refer to it as tunnel vision, seeing only our point of view. That is what has happened to religion. So we have to crack the code of religious law where we don't need it no more. And spirituality becomes the normal, but you are corrupting spirituality. You are corrupting Jesus Christ. And therefore you will never get to the soul, which is God. We are making Jesus something that he is not, because we are not seeing what has been taught properly. Foresight, say it one more time, I'm closing. 4 forms of sight. This is how you stand on the square. You must have foresight. You must have hindsight. You must have insight, and you must exercise oversight. You must examine what you think you know. I go to God constantly and say, Allah, God, am I on the right path or am just doing what I feel. If I have to turn around, then I have to turn around. Remember the story of the rich man in the Bible when he asked Christ, how could he get to the kingdom of heaven? And Christ said that you have to sell everything and deny yourself. And the rich man walked away and then Christ says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Because it's not just talking about the monetary riches, but when we deem ourselves so rich in our understanding and knowledge, we don't want to turn around and start over. And that's why the Bible talks about the young being the leaders, and the old can't handle that. Because how can he lead me after I know all of this stuff? He don't know this stuff. Unity, we can do it. In closing, Psalms 27:14 of the King James Version of the Bible, it says, wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say. Said it twice. Wait on the Lord. I thank you all so very much for tuning in to this commentary on the 19 report, The Blind Leading the Blind. Again, Dale Castro, myself, we will be on, God willing, this Sunday with a very powerful topic. It was requested by 2 women that we talk about some specific things pertaining to children, the disrespect of their elders, and other things. So we're going to get into that. I thank you all for tuning in. I thank you, Facebook family, so much. Hey, Diamond, I haven't heard from you in a while. I appreciate you staying on the air with me. As always, it's been some time before I was on YouTube, but I thank you all for tuning in. Again, this is Jamil Salib Samir, and we are signing off. Thank you all so much. We stayed on in an hour. That's great. Thank you all for tuning in.